Hi guys, welcome to Watch Hobbyist channel. So today I'm going to be looking at the Tudor Heritage Ranger. So it's a 150 meter water resistant 41mm watch. Let's jump into the review now. Okay, so the case on this watch is 41mm in diameter. Now the diameter basically means a diagonal measurement across the case, and it works out to 41 mils. Lug to lug is not too bad. It's sort of around about the 50mm mark, which for this sort of era of watches is quite normal really. It's not as small as the original model, which this is sort of designed off, which was around about 34 mils, but then I find that way too small now. So maybe somewhere in between would have appealed a little bit more, but we do also have the Tudor Black Bay Heritage 36 now, which is a great option for people if you want a small watch in 2016, because there aren't many big brands that are producing watches of that sort of size. But I digress. Back to this watch. For me, 41mm I think is a really decent size for an everyday sort of watch, and what it does allow is it allows for large indices and large hands, and what those mean is great timekeeping. So the height of the case is also not too bad. It's just over 12mm, and part of that is actually the protruding sapphire crystal above the bezel. So you have like this satinized bezel that goes around the crystal, and just above it sort of pops up. So it's a really nice bevel. It has a lovely dome to it as well. I think it works really well. And another really nice feature is the little pinholes that you see here on the side of the case. I always like those for changing straps. There's nothing simpler really, and it just works really well with the design. I think it's got a nice flat case back as well, which sort of hugs the wrist really nicely. It doesn't make it uncomfortable, and overall the case of this watch I think suits the design and works really well. Now the bracelet that you get with this watch is also quite unique. I don't think you actually get this particular variant on any other Tudor watch, and although the bracelet is the same as most other Tudors, what I mean by that is actually the end links are different. So you'll see here there are flat, straight across end link, and they actually have a gap between the end link itself and the case. So you can actually see underneath there's a gap either side. Now some people will like that, some people won't. This obviously is designed to look like the original bracelet on the 34mm version from years and years ago, and for me personally I like it. And part of that is because you don't really see it much these days, and it's nice to have something a little bit different. Now last year I think it was, there was a Phillips auction for the Tudor Black Bay, and they released an absolute one-off watch for the only watch auction, and what they did was they actually fitted this bracelet to a Tudor Black Bay Black, and they also gave it some other accents and stuff, but it was just before the full-on release of the Tudor Black Bay Black. Nobody knew it was really going to come out, and I really liked that idea. I liked the bracelet on that watch. Now at the time when I did actually order a Tudor Black Bay Black, I spoke to the company I ordered the watch from and asked them if they could source me one of these bracelets, and I think the retail was something like over £500 on this particular bracelet. So what I would recommend is, if you are going to buy this watch and you're not sure if you like the bracelet or not, it's probably cheaper to get the leather strap than it is the bracelet. So it may well be worth buying the watch with the bracelet, removing the bracelet so you've got it for the future, and then buying the leather strap separately if that's what you want, or if you want to wear it on a different strap that's an aftermarket strap or whatever, that might be an option as well. But that's always a good option because it can save you a lot of money in the long run if you change your mind down the line and decide you do want the bracelet. But another thing as well is, if you've got a Tudor Black Bay Black or any Tudor Black Bay, this bracelet will fit, and you could actually have that old look of a straight end link bracelet on your Tudor Black Bay. Now everything else is the same as most other Tudors, so we have this pretty standard clasp from them, but it's a very high quality clasp. At this price point I would say it's one of the best clasps for feel and security that you can probably buy. When you flick this up here, it it has these 2 ball bearings which keep that flip lock area in place. And then when you open it up, you have then another area now to open, which I'll just do. And we have this really nice sort of adjustability in the clasp as well. It's got the pinholes, you know, so you can micro adjust it. It just works really, really well as a clasp. I think it's really, really suited to this watch, and you know, works well on all the other Tudors that I've seen. It's always been comfortable when I've worn them, so you know, it's no different here. Now, if you don't want a bracelet, or if you aren't going to wear a bracelet, when you do buy the bracelet model, you do still get a strap in the box. Now, I'm not going to open this, but this is a camouflage strap, and it does have a spring bar system. So this is actually very similar to the Tudor Black Bays and the Tudor Heritage Chronos. They have this spring bar system where it's built in, so it's not like a standard NATO, but it's like their own take on it. And quality wise, it's a little bit thin, but it feels durable. I think it works well with the Ranger theme of watch. You have lots of nice hardware on here that's going to keep the strap nice and secure. You have the Tudor shape to the clasp, you know, so it sort of works with the Tudor sort of look. And everything, you know, about the strap systems of these watches, you know, it just works nicely. They think about everything from strap to the watch head to the movement. They seem to really, you know, look into a lot of detail technically about what will work and what won't. Now, the dial of the watch is something that really attracted me to it because it's so legible. Like I said before, when you have a large case, you have a large dial. And with a large dial, it's also nice and easy to read. And what's great is you have some Arabic numerals going on along with buttons, which I always like, because if they're all Arabics, then sometimes it can get a bit cluttered. And if they're all batons, then sometimes it can look a bit plain. This gives it a bit of character, the dial. I like that. I also like the hands. The hands are like, you've got an arrow shaped hour hand, and you've got a pencil shaped minute hand, and then you've got this red seconds hand, which is like an off red. It's not a deep red or a shiny red, it's like a matte colour, and it's sort of a very matted, dulled down red, which has just a slight luminant part to the end of it. And that goes around 28,800 beats per hour. It's going around nice and smoothly, and overall, reading the time, it couldn't be simpler. The luminescence as well of this dial is fantastic. You've got these applied numerals, applied batons, and yes, there's no borders or anything fancy going on, but that's kind of the appeal. It's a matte dial, it's a matte black. It goes from sort of grey to brown to dark black, depends on the different lighting that hits it. I think it looks really, really nice, and it works really, really well with this particular watch. So, you know, I would definitely not change that. I certainly wouldn't go putting anything glossy or shiny on it. And also, I've noticed that reflections are kept to a minimum due to the matte dial, which really helps, you know, when you're reading the time in bright sunlight or strong lighting conditions. So the movement in here is the Tudor ETA 2824. So it's an ETA movement. It's not in-house. Currently in September 2016, it's not moved to the in-house movements from Tudor, but I quite like that. I've always liked ETA movements. If you want to get them serviced, they're generally cheaper and easier to find a watch repairman to do that for you. You don't always have to send it back to the manufacturer. And it's, you know, an ETA movement. They've been around for years and years and years. They're reliable, they're robust, they tend to work really accurately. This watch is only a few seconds per day out. So, alright, so the power reserve is maybe a little bit lacking. It's a 38-hour power reserve, and in 2016 that's quite short. You know, there's Swatch watches out there with 90-hour power reserves and things like that now. However, they're generally not that accurate. Maybe they are for the first 24 to 48 hours, but once you start surpassing that, you know, and the torque winds down in the movement, you start to lose accuracy. So long power reserves aren't always the be all and end all. But yes, I do agree that this watch will at some point benefit from the new movement. I think that'll be a great thing for it. However, the ETA movement is certainly no bad thing, and I think at this price point, you know, it's only going to go up in price when they put the in-house movement in. So this price point for this watch as it stands now makes it, in my opinion, a good value watch for the money. And it runs at 28,800 beats per hour, so we've got a nice sweeping second hand round there. You know, that's as fast as any Rolex, that type of thing. So, you know, overall I think it runs well, it works well, this watch, with this particular movement. And when they do upgrade it to the extra power reserve of the in-house movement maybe at some point, well, that's only going to be a bonus. But for now, I certainly wouldn't let it put you off the watch if you are thinking of buying this and you're debating whether to wait for a new movement in this or go with the ETA. I would personally, if you like it, just buy it. You know, you're going to wear it probably quite a bit, so you're not going to be too worried about the movement winding down. And it's good, it's robust, and you know, has good features, shock resistance, that type of thing. So why let that put you off? The other thing as well is when they have moved other watches to the newer movements, they've sometimes added extra text to the dial. And one of the things that's really nice about this watch is the dial, which has barely any text on it, you know, so it's only going to possibly encroach on that. So this is how the watch looks on my wrist. Now I have a 6.75 inch wrist, which you'll know if you watch my other videos. And basically at 6.75 inches I have a tiny wrist officially. So I've actually adjusted this in a specific manner, which I'm going to produce a secondary video to show you how to adjust a Tudor bracelet to a smaller wrist. But on my wrist, I think it wears fine. I'm happy with the way that the lugs are over my wrist. You know, they're not sort of going either side of my wrist, nothing like that. You have a nice taper of the bracelet as it goes around the wrist, and it's comfortable. It feels nice. You know, I feel like you get some airflow through these sections here. So on a hot day, I'm sure that's a good thing. You know, if you've got a hot, sweaty day, it's only good to have a bit of a gap somewhere in the bracelet. The links are actually very nicely tight together though, so I guess they won't help too much with airflow around the wrist. But overall, I think it wears quite nicely. I don't have any problems with the way it wears. I find it comfortable. It's not too heavy, and for a 41mm watch to wear like this is unusual. Normally they wear quite a bit bigger, but it's all thanks to that shorter lug to lug length than your average sort of 41mm watch, which generally they tend to be a bit longer in my experience, so they tend to therefore wear a bit larger. This watch wears quite small for its size in my opinion. Okay, so I really hope you enjoyed that review of the Tudor Heritage Ranger. In my opinion, for its price point, it's one of the best watches out there. I really like its quality and its overall textures of things like the dial. I think it just works really, really well. But let me know what you think. Add a comment below. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel as well, and also check out my Instagram, which is @WatchHobbyist. Thanks, I'll see you again soon.